Hey, so final Pecha Kucha. Going over to Sidney. Peter Shipway will take the floor, and he will show us around the 18-foot skiffs which race on Sidney. One of the oldest dinghy classes in the world. These boats race with 3 rules. The first rule is maximum length over deck 18 foot. The second rule is no self-bailers. Third rule, the start is at 2 o'clock. So Peter has been sailing these 18-foot skiffs in the past, the vintage ones as well as the modern ones. He does the live commentary from the ferry. He is Mr. 18-foot skiff. I'll just shut up and give the floor to you, Pete. Shippo. So are you actually going to answer the question of what is a ringtail or not?
Stay tuned.
Okay, sorry. Does anybody know what a ringtail is? Just 1, 2, 3. Okay, you've got a project.
Thank you, John. Well, most sailors are familiar with the modern Australian 18-footers as they speed across Sydney Harbour every summer weekend with their carbon sails and spars, but they are vastly different, as you can see, to the original skiffs. It began as the brainchild of a Sydney businessman, Mark Foy, who in 1896 was disappointed that nobody watched skiff racing and was determined to create a boat and races that would solve that problem. And so was born the 18-footer. As John has said and stolen my thunder, rules were at a minimum. Only 18 feet in length, the beam between 7 and 9 feet to give some flexibility, but sail area being unlimited was a massive, measuring 260 square metres with everything up. And most importantly, most races must start at 2 o'clock and betting was allowed. The spars were all solid timber. The bowsprit was 21 feet or 6.5 metres long. The main boom with ringtail spar set measured 42 feet or 13 metres in total. The mast 47 feet high, 15 metres, and a 3-piece spinnaker pole measuring 45 feet. The ringtail is the sail, as you can see, adds area to the mainsail and is only used when going downwind. Mark Foy's idea was to introduce a fast skiff with easily recognised coloured emblems on the mainsail, courses so spectators could watch the entire race from a ferry, and a handicapping system which would give each boat an opportunity to win. This is a ferry, very overloaded, watching the 1921 Australian Championships on Sydney Harbour with 3 bookmakers aboard. To keep them afloat, you needed bodies and plenty of them. Depending on the weather, crew numbers were anywhere between 10 and 15, squashed treble banked along the gunnels. On a light day, they'd throw 5 off and go with 10. Tacking was a nightmare for the poor bailer boy cowering alongside the centre case while a burly mob of adults stampeded across him. Here is a photo of one of the most famous 18-footers, many times Australian champion, pre-World War II, the mighty Aberdare, a major breakthrough in design, being driven hard with all canvas aloft, including a ringtail in a hard nor'easter, with again an overloaded spectator ferry in attendance on Sydney Harbour. The ringtail must be raised and lowered every time going downwind, and believe me, it is not an easy task. As years went on, the rigs were changing as crew numbers were reduced and designers were going from small and lighter skiffs, easily driven with a less sail area. Here is an amazing photo of the contrasting rig sizes. Massive at the back and massive at the back, but small and efficient in the front. Yes, that's 2 18-foot skiffs there, side by side. Post-World War II, the skiffs had become a lot lighter, less crews, less beam, and gaffs had disappeared, replaced by a Marconi rig, but still timber. Here is the famous Jenny from the northern state of Queensland, with every scrap of sail aloft, with the ringtail skimming the water. Looking to be in some trouble, until you notice the crew are not the least bit perturbed. Remarkably, 18-foot skiff racing was never cancelled. Here is an 18-footer flying a spinnaker in a westerly gale on Sydney Harbour in 1952, in wild and woolly conditions, as you can see. Most crews played rugby in the winter and sailed 18-footers in the summer, so they were pretty tough. Advances in technology during the 1950s had a dramatic effect on sailing, and Australians quickly learned that the moulded veneer building techniques had accelerated that development. By the early 60s, crews were getting heavily reduced, led by the introduction of the trapeze, and boats were getting down to lighter crews, and they were down to 4 or 5, maybe 6 as a maximum. But some were even trying a crew of 3. The first of these was Venom, a plywood design and skippered by the one and only Ben Lexon, as mentioned previously in the Sydney Hobart talk, then Bob Miller, the Australian America's Cup designer, winning the Australian Championships way back in 1961 as a three-hander. The three-handers had arrived, with the skipper now on the trapeze, but not everyone was convinced, with the four-handers still dominating and winning all major championships. The sails were getting bigger, and they had a choice of 3 rig configurations depending on the wind conditions: extra large, medium or small, a bit like your coffee, really. Travelodge, as we've seen here, in the early 70s, a young New Zealand designer was starting to make a mark in the 18-footers, and that was Bruce Farr. One of his designs from New Zealand in 1972, this boat became the first three-hander in history to win a world championship. All Farr designs had extended deck wings, some had jibing centreboards, and others had small skegs to increase the water flow around the rudder. Bruce Farr, once again ahead of his time, producing 4 successive world championships. Designs were still unrestricted, only having to be 18 feet in length, and in the mid-70s there appeared a new kid on the block, a 17-year-old Ian Murray, who dominated the 18-foot skiff world, winning an incredible 6 Australian and world championships in succession, all boats to his own design and sponsored by national television network Channel 7. Murray joined with boat builder John McConaughey to construct hulls using space-age materials, with his knowledge gained when they both went to the USA to visit NASA and aerospace to purchase prepreg Nomex and Kevlar materials. The bare hull only weighed 30 kilograms and almost 25 kilos lighter than any other skiff, launching McConaughey onto the world boat building stage. Outrigger wings were introduced in the 1980s, proving great success, enhancing stability and hence speed, as wings became wider up to an incredible 32 feet or 10 metres tip to tip, and rigs were going up to 45 feet or 14 metres. It was an arms race to see who had the widest wings. However, rules were changed in 1985 after this wing war, limiting them to 22 feet from, or 6.7 metres tip to tip. Around this time saw the introduction of asymmetrical spinnakers, so no more massive spinnaker poles joined in 3 or 4 places, just a lengthy fixed bow pole as still used today. Boats were coming from the USA, United Kingdom and Europe to contest the annual World Championships. This is the World Championship Honda from New Zealand. In 1991, one of the biggest decisions was made in 18-foot history to go with a single hull, one design, and chose Ian Murray as the designer. Each boat was only allowed 2 mainsails, 2 headsails and 2 spinnakers each year. Sails and rigs can be tweaked, but not the hulls. All 18-foot skiff races today are now sailed in Ian Murray designed skiffs. Around the turn of this century, a group of retired and some current 18-foot skiff sailors embarked on a significant program to build a fleet of historical 18-foot skiffs based on the exact plans of yesteryear. They continue to race every weekend currently as the replicas of years gone by. An appropriate end, a battlefield with the modern skiff succumbing to a southerly buster during a world championship, reminding everyone just how hard they are to sail and stay upright. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much, Peter. That's I've literally, as a kid, I started dreaming about 18-foot skiffs at that size. It's been I'm not too old. I'm going to do it.
One day.
One day.